Harry, no matter who wrote those words, that's such a wonderful introduction that I'm reminded of what Lyndon Johnson used to say when he got an especially wonderful introduction. He used to say he wished his parents were alive to hear it, because his father would have enjoyed it and his mother would have believed it. You know, when Winston Churchill was writing his biography of his great ancestor, Lord Marlborough, someone once asked him how he was coming along, and he said, "I'm working on the 5th of a projected 4 volumes." Well, not to compare myself with Lyndon Johnson, but in this respect, at least, I'm in the same boat. And as I work now on the 5th of my projected 4 volumes, it's really wonderful to get encouragement such as I'm getting from receiving this award tonight. I thank the Norman Mailer Center for it, and I thank you all for coming. I was thinking last night as I watched the presidential debate about how the life of Lyndon Johnson illuminates the present political situation. I've never regarded my books of Johnson as a biography, just as I didn't regard The Power Broker as a biography of Robert Moses. From the first time I thought of my books, I never thought of them as biographies. I never had the slightest interest in writing a book just to tell the life of a great man. From the first time I thought of biography, I thought of it as a way to use the life of a man to illuminate the times he lived in and the forces that shaped the times, particularly the force that is political power. Why political power? Because we live in a democracy, so in a democracy, the ultimate power is in our hands, in the votes we cast at the ballot box. So the more we know about political power, not the standard things, the surface things that we learn in high school and college textbooks, but about the raw, naked realities about how political power really works, the better, in theory at least, our voting should be, and the better our country should be. So as I watched the debates last night, I thought of how those two men debating on our screens were fighting for the ultimate prize in political power, presidential power, the power that a president can exercise. I'll tell just one anecdote about what presidential power can do, about what the true potentialities of it are. It occurs on November 24th, 1963. It's 2 days after President Kennedy has been assassinated. Lyndon Johnson has become president. He hasn't even moved into the Oval Office. He's still working in the vice president's office in the executive office building. At the time of Kennedy's death, all his major legislation, his civil rights bill, a tax cut bill which was desperately needed because the economy had stalled and unemployment was rising towards an unacceptably high 5%. All those bills and the rest of Kennedy's major legislation, everything was stalled in Congress. He had sent up his tax cut bill on January 11th, 1963. Now it's November, and the bill is still in the Senate Finance Committee, which is chaired by Senator Harry F. Byrd, Byrd of the Byrds of Virginia, who had been chairman of that committee for decades. He wasn't letting the bill out. Byrd's reason for not doing that had to do with Kennedy's budget. Byrd said to Kennedy's advisors in his courtly Southern fashion that he'd surely appreciate it if the budget came in about $100 billion. The Kennedy people think that that was an approximation, that he would be satisfied if it came in close to $100 billion. So they submit a budget of $101.5 billion. They submit another budget of $102 billion. As for the tax cut bill, they keep saying, we'll go around Harry Byrd and his committee. We'll get the other committee members to overrule him. But they've been saying that since January, and now it's November, and nothing is happening. And in truth, nothing is going to happen. That bill is never coming out of committee. And in fact, even the Kennedy people are beginning to realize this, and to realize they don't know how to do anything about it. On the evening of November 24th, 2 days after Kennedy's death, Lyndon Johnson, in the evening, calls Kennedy's 3 top economic advisors, Douglas Dillon, the Secretary of the Treasury, Walter Heller, Chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, and the Budget Director, Kermit Gordon, to his office, the office in the Executive Office Building. They start talking to him about going around Harry Byrd in committee. Lyndon Johnson stops them. First, he tells them that they don't understand what Harry Byrd was really saying to him. When Byrd was saying in his Southern way that he'd like the budget to come in around $100 billion, he didn't mean around $100 billion. And he didn't mean $101.5 billion or $102 billion. He means bring it in under $100 billion, under $100 billion, or I'm not letting your tax bill out. Then they start talking to Johnson about how they'll go around Harry Byrd in committee. Johnson cuts them off again. He says, you're never going to go around Harry Byrd in committee. They say, why not? He says, because there's 17 members of the Finance Committee, and Harry Byrd has the votes of 9 of them, a majority. So one of them says to Johnson, how do you know he has 9 votes in committee? And Lyndon Johnson says, because Harry Byrd always has 9 votes in committee. They all left memos that evening of what had happened in that meeting, luckily for the historian who wants to try to describe it like me. And all these memos say the same thing. All of a sudden, the problem was solved, the problem we hadn't been able to solve for 11 months. We give Harry Byrd what he wants on the budget, and we can have our tax cut bill. The problem was gone. And they're right. They cut the budget below $100 billion, and the tax cut bill comes out. The civil rights begins to move, and all the other legislation begins to move. I was thinking of this last night while I was watching those 2 guys contesting for presidential power. Presidential power that can be so huge. That's what I'm trying to write about in my books, and I thank you for this award, for those books which you give me tonight. Thanks.